Welcome, Chairman. As the number of legitimate cannabis-related businesses grow across the United States, the vast majority of banks and credit unions are not offering services to these enterprises for legitimate fear of legal and regulatory risk. My home state of New Jersey is moving towards legalization of recreational marijuana, and I have concerns that these new businesses, as well as the existing medical marijuana businesses in the state, will continue to find themselves shut out of the banking system. And when these businesses are forced to operate exclusively in cash, they create serious public safety risks in our communities. Do you agree that financial institutions need clarity on this issue?
I think it would be great to have clarity. Of course, financial institutions and their regulators and supervisors are in a very difficult position here, with marijuana being illegal under federal law and legal under a growing number of state laws. It puts financial institutions in a very difficult place and puts the supervisors in a difficult place too. It would be nice to have clarity on that supervisory relationship.
And in a corollary question, related to the provision of banking services is the ability for such businesses to secure insurance products, a necessity for those looking to secure financing. Would it be helpful for Congress to also consider the role of insurance companies as states move forward towards legalization?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. On a different question, February 7th, BB&T announced that it planned to purchase SunTrust in a deal that would result in the combined bank becoming the sixth largest commercial bank in the country with $434 billion in total assets. As you may know, in 2008, BB&T's Community Reinvestment Act rating was downgraded due to substantive violations of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and the Fair Housing Act. BB&T's most recent CRA exam, released last year, also included a substantive violation of fair lending laws, a violation which likely should have resulted in another downgrade to the bank's CRA rating. I want to be sure that the Federal Reserve is not following the OCC and de-emphasizing its treatment of fair lending violations when it comes time to evaluate a proposed merger. What assurance can you give us that the Federal Reserve will treat these violations with the seriousness they deserve?
We haven't changed our policy on that, and we do consider it comes in the law under convenience and needs of the community served, and that includes consumer compliance and fair lending records and the record of performance under CRA. Those are all things that we do consider in when we get a merger application.
And when you're considering it, can you give us a sense of what the Federal Reserve's review of this bank or any other bank's Community Reinvestment Act track record and compliance with fair lending laws will look like?
We'll look thoroughly at it. We'll look at the rating, of course, which I believe I think it's satisfactory now. Banks that have an unsatisfactory or less than satisfactory rating, I think, have a hard time. But we'll look at that, and we'll also consider public comments and a full range of information. Any information that's presented to us, we'll consider.
Well, I asked this question because it seems to me that, particularly at the OCC, who has released a proposal without input from the Fed or FDIC, contemplating sweeping changes to the implementation of the Community Reinvestment Act. In a speech last year, Governor Brainerd said the Community Reinvestment Act was, quote, more important than ever. She stressed that branches and deposit-taking ATMs remain an important way that banks engage with the community. You also highlighted recently the importance of enforcing the CRA and other laws that help ensure people have adequate access to financial services wherever they live. Can we get your commitment to build consensus among the Fed governors before moving forward with proposals to change implementation of the Community Reinvestment Act?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I think it's important that you do everything in your power to try to achieve a unanimous vote on this issue should the Fed decide to move forward. Many of us find this an incredibly important part of our law and an increasingly diminishing reality of financial institutions that somehow think that they do not really have to fully engage and implement the law and ultimately still get away with it. And so I think there has to be a strong message that that's not the case. I hope you'll be able to deliver that message.
We are unified in our commitment to, to the mission of CRA, and to any revisions that we do. We're going to want to see that they preserve that mission and enable banks to serve it more effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.